Hello, everybody. On this episode of the Master Instructor Roundtable, Marty Miller here with my co-host, Wendy Batts. We're going to talk about speed training. Many people think speed, acceleration, agility are reserved just for elite athletes, football players, etc. But the truth is, these performance qualities have tremendous benefits for the general population as well. Wendy, kind of give them a peek behind the curtain on what they're going to see in this episode.
100%. We're going to talk about where we're going to define speed, agility, and quickness to make sure we're all on the same page. Marty and I talk about some of the different things that we do with our clients and athletes. Of course, we are bringing up some research that is recent that supports all the benefits that can come along with utilizing speed, agility, and quickness within your program. So we hope you enjoy the episode. Be sure to like, follow, subscribe, give us a 5-star review, and enjoy the show.
Hello and welcome to today's Master Instructor Roundtable. I'm Marty Miller here with co-host Wendy Batts. And today we're going to tackle a question that comes up often in fitness. Is speed training just for athletes? So Wendy, I'm eager to jump into this topic and hear your thoughts on it. So I'm glad you're, as always, here so we can uncover some things for our audience today.
Yes, I think a lot of times when we do speed, agility, and quickness, which is what it's termed, especially in our textbook, people just assume, of course, you're going to use this for our youth, our athletes, but actually we should be using it for everyone because what it can do for activities of daily living, brain health, everything. I think it is a kind of one of those things that we don't do enough of. So we've got some research we're going to cover today. We've got some great points. And so hopefully you guys walk away and enjoy what we're going to talk about. So let's dive in.
Yeah. So first, let's talk about what we're going to talk about. I'm sure we'll go into other areas, and in the show notes, there's some great resources for you. So we'll talk about and define speed, power, acceleration, agility in the context of fitness. We'll demonstrate why these concepts are incredibly valuable beyond just athletics, and then provide safe alternatives for speed training for any one of your clientele that could come into your facility today.
Yes. Marty, how often did you do speed, agility, and quickness with because you worked more in the country club vibe, and of course, tennis and golf and pickleball, all of those type of sports translated into a lot of the population that you had, but you also had people that would just come for the social life, I'm sure. So how often did you see this in your clubs, but then also how often did you do it with your clients? Yeah,
well, coming from professional sports, it was always ingrained in me. And then when I went through NASM's content and really understood the concepts of it in the phases of training, it became cemented. So everybody did something, as far as even the patterning of the speed ladders, even if it was later on in my career when we had the curved non-motorized treadmills, it could be walking at 2.5 miles an hour, walk up to 2.7, slow it down to 2, walk up to 3 miles an hour, slow it down. So there's a lot of different ways I would play with it. And that's one of the topics we're going to talk about today. But all my clients did some of this to some level. And then you'd be shocked in today's country club market at that age bracket of maybe 45 to 75. They're trying to be athletes. We talk about everybody's an athlete, but they're playing pickleball, they're playing tennis, they're on the golf course. So even more so, it was important for me to get them to do this type of training.
Absolutely. So I think it's important too that we define speed, agility, and quickness, because a lot of times we clump it together and people really don't think about how different they truly are. So when we are talking about speed, of course, it's the ability to move the body in one intended direction as fast as you possibly can. How fast are you? Think about a car going 0 to 60. You're getting the speed up, right? So it's how fast can we go from point A to point B? So when we're looking at speed, a lot of times we do that with a timer. Obviously we want to think, okay, what is the ultimate purpose? So if you're doing assessments, there might be a distance and you're looking at speed. When we talk about agility, it's the ability to start or accelerate. So again, how fast can you start? And then how quick can you stop and then stabilize the body. So it's not just you're stopping and your whole body is still moving forward. You want to be able to control the start, the stop, and make sure you kind of own that. But then also it's changing the different directions. So when you're thinking about looking at you're watching a football game, you've got different running backs. They're running forward, or they're running laterally, they're turning, they're rotating, they're doing all these different things. That acquires a lot of amazing agility to be able to perform at that high level at high speeds. So again, that's the correlation between speed and incorporating that with agility. And then of course, quickness, your body's being able to react. You've got to be able to change your body position with maximal rate of force production in all planes, because you never know, are you going to have to turn, step forward? Are you moving laterally? And so when you think about this with activities of daily living and you think about your seniors, it's the same thing. People have to speed up life, right? And that's what we tell people. We're training for the speed of life, not we're trying to overexcel you and push you to a limit, but we want to make you faster than what you currently are. And maybe for some, it's they're barely picking up their feet and moving, and now we're getting them to take bigger steps at a faster pace. Or if they're just moving things forward and backward, what can we do to do some sidestepping and then some rotating when they're ready? So it doesn't matter if you're working with a senior. It doesn't matter if you're working with a professional athlete. It's very important to incorporate this into programming, not necessarily on the daily. That's why when you see the actual template, it'll say optional, but it is very important that you think about, okay, what can you do differently? Plus it's fun. I mean, people have fun. If you don't train this way, sometimes it's a big wake-up call when you realize how slow you are or how hard patterning can be. And then also training your brain to remember different sequences. It's very interesting.
Yeah, no, Wendy, I think you covered speed, agility, and quickness very well. So, if we move on to our next topic, we're going to go through one of those common misconceptions is speed training too risky for non-athletes? I would say it's too risky for athletes or non-athletes not to train in a progressive manner in these three areas. So again, I've always talked about it, let's not confuse capacities versus abilities. Everybody has the ability to increase their capacities, whether it's speed, whether it's agility, whether it's quickness, whether it's stabilization, whether it's endurance, VO2 max, power, you name it. The outcome will not look the same. Like I will not hurdle a professional athlete like Saquon Barkley backwards. Not going to happen. But can I do different drills that would emulate those type of outputs? Yeah, mine's just going to look different than his. But that doesn't mean I can't improve it. So it all comes into going back to the assessments, going back to the OPT model, starting with stability, starting with balance, starting with landing mechanics, and work your way through. And then you work within what you can control. So it's not too risky for non-athletes. You just have to start in a progressive manner. Now, the problem I see is, you can use my age, 52, fit person. All of a sudden I decide, I'm going to go do, and I'm not picking anything in particular because they all have a place and an opportunity to be beneficial. But let's say I go to a CrossFit gym. Nothing wrong with that, but have I earned the right to maybe necessarily jump right in with people who've been doing this for a long time? So it's not the exercise that's bad. It's the progression for me entering into that program at the wrong time. So this is where, again, you also heard me say, earn the right to get into these things, because there is extreme forces on the body when you start to speed up, when you start to change direction. So you have to have the underlying, like I always say, you want the Ferrari engine, give me the Ferrari brakes and Ferrari suspension first. Then it's as safe as possible, and you just allow the person to progress to the level that they can control.
Yes. We all move differently. That's what makes us unique. So when you think about the benefits of the sprinting, agility, and the quickness type of training. So when we say SAQ, there was people that are saying sometimes, Marty, you and Wendy will say, what was it, CES or PES? I'm really not sure what that stands for. So just know that when we say SAQ, we're just putting it together for speed, agility, and quickness. And so when we're talking about this training together, that training improves the client's ability to accelerate, which go forward, decelerate, kind of slow us down, stabilize the body. And then, and so when we're, going back and thinking about the entire body at high volumes, we need to be able to do this in all three planes of motion. So you need to be able to run, you need to be able to cut, And think about if you are a grandparent and you're playing with your grandkids and you're outside and you're wrestling around or you're trying to catch them, you have to be able to move and cut. So it's one of those, that's how it translates sometimes to our seniors. And we don't think about that until you're in that type of environment. And remember the SAID principle, you get what you train for. So if you're not training in all three planes of motion, you're not training on accelerating and decelerating, you're actually doing yourself a disservice. So SAQ training stimulates the nervous system to respond more efficiently to the demands placed upon it. Again, SAID principle, right? And it enhances motor recruitment and coordination when performed with correct mechanics. And I think that's a big thing too, correct mechanics. We always talk about the 5 kinetic chain checkpoints. We want everyone to stay aligned properly. We know that it's the safest position for our joints and we have good link tension relationships. So now we want to increase the demand by adding the speed and the different planes of motions and the ability to stop, start, and change direction. So all of it's super important, but having the right mechanics, again, looking at the assessments, looking at compensations, fixing those compensation patterns is going to be extremely important.
Yeah, and this segment of the OPT model is no different than any other part of the model. It's all about science. It's all about progression. And it's all about moving people through in micro progressions and micro regressions as they can control. But this is a definite fun, challenging, and amazing part of a program that can really change somebody's body. So I love getting more people to put this into the programming.
Oh, for sure. So go ahead. Oh, well, I was just going to say, think about the muscle action spectrum. We talk about moving a joint, right? You've got to be able to pick something up. And so when we think about looking at programming and you're looking through the NASM book, you're going to see like 4, 2, 1, 1. And people are like, I have no idea what these numbers mean. So, or NASM wrote it backwards. That's what kills me. So remember, guys, in research, we need something that we all understand. So when you're looking at the templates and you're looking through your book and you're seeing these different numbers for tempo, eccentric is always going to be written first. Again, one of the reasons why in phase 1, we focus so much on the eccentric contraction of the exercise that we're trying to perform. Second would be isometric. That means the no movement part. Then you're going to see concentric. And then if it's written with 4, you're going to see isometric again. So if it's just written 4, 2, 1, they're talking eccentric, isometric, concentric. If it's written with 4, it's eccentric, isometric, eccentric, isometric. So just think about that as Marty and I cover these definitions. And then as Marty goes into detail about the research. But when we're talking about concentric contractions, that's the muscle action that occurs when a muscle is exerting the force greater than the resistive force. So it's usually shortening the muscle. If you think of a bicep curl, you're holding onto the dumbbells and you curl your elbow into elbow flexion. That is performing the concentric component of that movement. You're shortening that muscle. If you pause, that's an isometric contraction, right? Pausing, no movement. There's no change in what I'm doing. I'm just holding it. And then as I bring it down, right? So I'm going back down, I am lengthening that muscle. But if you look at the definition too, what you're doing is thinking about the time under tension, right? Now you're using gravity as well. So it's the muscle action that occurs when a muscle develops tension while lengthening. And so you've got to think of that as a whole and think about how the sacromeres work, the muscles and the fibers work together, what's happening to exert the force. And then as Marty goes into some of the detail on the research that he found, you just have to really understand what's the prime mover and when is it actually exerting the force, because people sometimes get that backwards. So Marty, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry about that. I apologize. So yeah, I think the biggest thing here, in addition to what you talked about with the tempo and everything, is understanding when we're looking at speed, agility, quickness, you're really getting those eccentric lengthenings followed by an immediate concentric action. And that's how the muscle acts kind of like a rubber band and really snaps and does the power. So that's where it's really important to build into it, as we've talked about a couple of times. And the OPT model is setting you up for when it's time to rapidly decelerate and rapidly accelerate. You won't have these issues of risk because you've prepared the body's tissues to act in that manner. So great explanation of all the tempos there, Wendy.
Yep. And before we go into the research, Marty, I just want to say that this episode of the Master Instructor Roundtable is brought to you by NASM One, the membership for trainers and coaches. Members enjoy unlimited access to hundreds of career resources. Get the Edge app to schedule and program clients. Enjoy half off all certifications and specializations. Access free CEUs and more. All of this for just $35 a month. Go to nasm.org/membership to learn more about NASM One.
Excellent. So Wendy, as we always do, we anchor to the research. And interestingly enough, on a little side note, I've been seeing more and more people on Instagram saying, don't be too scientific in your training. I'm like, I can understand making training fun and engaging, but we need to stick to science because that's how we make our decisions. And that's how we really know what we're going to do is going to get the outcomes we need. So we're always going to come back to the research. So in 2023, there was a study that showed the effects of repeated sprint training on physical fitness and physiological adaptations in athletes, a meta-analysis. So it took a bunch of studies. So the finding is RST, or repeated sprint training, improves VO2 max, intermittent high intensity running performance, or those yo-yo types, kind of like maybe your Tabatas and other things. Sprint times, 10 meters, 20 meters, change of direction, agility, and height jump. So you're getting an amazing benefit. Now, some people will say, well, my clients can't sprint. Au contraire. If you've ever been on a bicycle, can you do sprint intervals on a bicycle? Sure. We're not saying that they have to be on a track or a treadmill doing this at 10 to 12 to 15 miles an hour. That's what you see in the images and things like that. But think about the concept. Your body doesn't necessarily understand how you're increasing the heart rate that quickly, right? If you're working with athletes, yes, they have to do what they're going to do on the field. But for my 75-year-old mom, when it's appropriate, she could be on an upper body ergometer doing 20-second sprints with a 40-second rest. She could be doing battling ropes. So you can get creative learning from the science. It's just a safe application of the research. Yes, maybe a full body exercise like a sprint might get you a little more benefit. But the point is, we need to push people appropriately to get those heart rates up and get that recovery, get that heart rate up and get that recovery. And the research continues to show the benefits. And even some of the best longevity doctors now are talking about sprinting. Just when you hear the word sprint, just think of higher intensity followed by a recovery, followed by repeated higher intensity. You pick the application, whether it's a rowing machine, a recumbent bike, like I said, upper body ergometer, battling ropes, whatever that may be. But the research shows that we really need to do some of the sprinting within our program when appropriate.
Oh, 100%. And then, a lot of times I would just set up a little area with different cones and have people run forward and backwards. We had a master instructor, his name was Scott Mitchell, that he actually did a YouTube video a long time ago for us and showed how he works with some of his athletes. And it was, running as fast as they could for 4 steps, stopping, running backwards, stopping, going side to side, running in different patterns. And it was wonderful. It was something that was enlightening to all of us because, when you do think of this, you have to think, okay, you have to run this certain distance. But it really doesn't have to be like you're taking up the whole gym and you're having people run and race each other, knock other people out, knowing that somebody's on their phone, not paying attention, going to walk in front of them. And then it's a risk of safety. So to Marty's point, be creative in your programming and anything that you can do that will cause some acceleration and deceleration, I think is going to be worthwhile to you and your clients. And like I said, it's something that gets the heart rate up. I sometimes will do it as a metabolic blast, as I would do at the end of, if I'm doing like even a phase 1 and it's somebody that I know is really active and they're going out and doing daily runs. So you can incorporate what they like, but you also want to make sure, to the point of what Marty said, it makes sense. And that they've got good form when they're doing it.
Wonderful. So now another study here, improving of 6 weeks of repeated sprint training on the aerobic and anaerobic power of college-age male rugby players. This is from 2025. Finding was that repeated sprint training gave strong improvements in both anaerobic and aerobic capacity, right? So you're covering both spectrums here. Better ventilatory threshold, better lactate clearance, and more stable improvements in yo-yo tests, maximize oxygen uptake, and power metrics. So you're getting the power, you're getting aerobic and anaerobic outputs. So, I remember Rodney Core, our mentor, once said this. and I'm going to apply it to this. If he ever had to take one stretching technique only to a desert island, he would have taken self-myofascial techniques, right? So maybe his theories would have changed by now, but if I had to take one cardiovascular type of training only to a desert island, it would be resisted sprint training or repeated sprint training when appropriate, because you get to cover a lot of the cardiovascular needs. And to me, it's more fun. You get the power in probably your lower body, depending on what implement you're using, burn a lot of calories, build muscle. So it's a great way to train. So I highly recommend, when appropriate, put it into the program 1 to 2 times a week.
I love it. So another study, again, sprint training, it's improved. I love this part because think about brain health. This is the biggest thing that we've been talking about too. So when you're talking about neurotrophic factor induced benefits in brain health, when you're doing a speed training, that's a big deal, guys. And so when you think about this sprint interval training, it seems to positively affect your brain health, if you will, and the responses, sports brain health in general, mood, cognition. I mean, who doesn't want all of this? And so, and it's fun. It's fun because it's hard. And it's one of those wake up calls. If I don't go out and sprint very often, but if and when I do, and I'm racing my kid, I still in my head, I'm like, I'm going to beat you forever. And I'm super competitive with him and he is super competitive with me. And sometimes it's a big wake up call, like, wow, I don't move as quick as I used to, or me getting off the start line isn't, I mean, I used to run track in high school. And so it's a big difference from where I was and where I am today because I don't train for it. And if it's going to have the positive benefits, especially physically, like Marty just said, aerobically and anaerobically, but then also in my brain. I mean, why not, right?
Absolutely. And, on the last slide, I knew this one was coming, so I didn't talk about the BDNF on if I can only take one type of training. And again, there's trainings, your traditional zone 2 cardio has great benefits. Don't get me wrong. But, Wendy, when you were talking about with your son, et cetera, there'll be a day where if you don't train and not only is he going to beat you, you could pull something, right? So if you train, at least he's just going to beat you and you're going to be healthy and you're just going to not finish, at the finish line when he does, but this is critically important for longevity, where we know Alzheimer's and all these other neurodegenerative diseases are there. So why would you not put something in that is going to absolutely get amazing benefits in so many ways, but then also cover your bases here with longevity, neuroplasticity, and engaging that release of the BDNF?
I don't know. So when you think about the summary of benefits, this is just to kind of recap what we just talked about with the different research articles that were discussed. And guys, there's so many more out there, but from the recent studies, again, we want to think about what are we confirming? Improved anaerobic and aerobic fitness, again, increased VO2 max, better lactate threshold and clearance, better performance and endurance tasks and high intensity intermittent efforts, greater speed and power output. We know that you get what you train for, right? So if I'm going to sprint and sprint and sprint, I hopefully am going to have better times, whether short distance or longer distance, even improvement in explosive movements. So jumping. And then you want to think about the metabolic adaptations that your body is going to achieve. So improve mitochondrial function, better recovery after fatigue, more efficient muscle oxygenation. Super, super important, obviously, because we want to think about how tired you are and how sore you are after this. If it's something that's going to help me on the recovery side, another positive benefit. So neuromuscular and biomechanical adaptations, so better activation of specific muscles. Think about the muscles that you're using and the gait pattern. Now we're increasing the speed. I mean, that's a big, obviously, definite win. And then cognitive, like we just talked about, the neurological benefits of positive effects on DNF and brain health and mood.
Yeah, it's amazing stuff. And, you know me, Wendy, I'm in the gym at 5:30 in the morning, and with my rower or my bike, I'm always like, all right, how fast can I get this done? Or, how many watts? It's like uber competitive with myself because I'm a numbers person, but it's really, pushing that limit. But the good news is it doesn't take long. So you can kind of shave some time off your workout when you're doing these.
Absolutely. And those people that really don't like to do cardio, but they know that they need it, these little bursts throughout your program are going to be super beneficial for you because, again, you're not just being a hamster. I always call it a hamster on a wheel. Like, 'cause that's just how I personally feel on a treadmill. I know people love it, and I'm not dogging a treadmill. I own one. I know it's important, but when, you can do something and you're outside, or even if you're inside and you're doing something that's just different, there are so many more positive benefits. And then I don't dread it.
Right. Absolutely. So we've talked about this, so it won't take a ton of time for us to get through this, but some unique training applications. So battling ropes, I talked about, right? A great way to develop upper body power, very safe. There's countless different exercises, but if you keep somebody at shoulder height or below, keep their posture good, keep their core engaged, get them into that low athletic position, you're going to be able to do battling ropes with just about everybody. In a facility, it's nice to have different size, different thickness because of the weight. So again, I've worked with some people in their 80s that had to sit in chair to do it. They loved it. So I had to have thinner ropes. So tons and tons of information out there. Highly recommend that. Then you have tools like the Air 9 bikes. I have something that's called the Techno Gym Ride. There's other bikes, that are designed for it. But even if you're just on a standard bike, there's ways to get those sprint intervals in. Rowers are great. This is the one that I have, the Techno Gym Skill Row. And I'll crank it up and do, how quick can I do 200 meters? Okay. Now if it took me 2 minutes, I'll give myself 2 minutes rest. Can I get another 500 meters in that 2 minutes? You know what I mean? Like, when can I not repeat that distance in that time? Right. So there's all kinds of cool ways to have fun with it. And then Wendy, that I'm here in Florida. It was the worst summer ever heat wise. So I caved in. I'm building a pool. And I've already started to think about how this is going to add to my fitness routine, right? Because now I have new opportunities to train in an unloaded environment, but really push the limits by being explosive and all that kind of fun stuff. So it just comes to doing a little research, being creative, and there's plenty of opportunities. And there's not a treadmill here. There's no sprinting here. It's just using unique applications for the same scientific outcome.
This actually made me laugh when I saw the picture that you put in here, because I don't know that many people that get into a pool with their tennis shoes. And that's the first thing, because I'm a shoe person. So that's
they're water pool. They're water shoes.
I don't know. They look like they're running shoes to me. But either way, just wanted to throw that out there. So if you're driving, there's a picture of a lady that's got weights and she's doing, looks like high knees, and she's got on tennis shoes in the water. So anyway. So the key takeaways: speed, power, and agility are not exclusive to athletes. So that answers our question that we asked in the very beginning. Properly scaled programming benefits performance, longevity. Think about what we talked about with brain health and safety. Encouragement to integrate those principles into all fitness programs. Again, it is on the template. And just because we wrote optional, like, people look at it and they think, oh, optional, I'm just not going to do it. Guys, add it in. Doesn't have to be all the time, but add it in. It is something where you can add a different component to your programming. You now know all the benefits that are going to be there for your clients of all ages. And the big one is fun. It's fun because it's hard, especially those clients like myself and Marty. We really love to be challenged. And if you start throwing that into my program, it's going to be really hard for me, which I'm going to enjoy. And then, of course, it's going to enhance functional performance and activities of daily living, because the carryover is extremely important, guys. And we have to train for the speed of life. My speed is different than Marty's, and I'm sure Marty's is different than many of yours. So again, we're all going to be different, but if we're training with the same goal in mind, you're going to have so many positive benefits.
Yeah, Wendy, that's very well said. And I think hopefully we gave everybody that is watching, listening to this podcast, a kind of little food for thought, saying, hey, have I kind of glazed over that? Should I readdress that? Should I kind of sharpen my skills in that? And would my clients enjoy it? And the answer will be yes. So hopefully we gave you some things to think about, some things to immediately apply to your clients in your own training session. Remember, you're your own first client. So practice these so you can demonstrate them, and you and your clients will both love the benefits.
Love it. So as always, if you have any questions, you can email me at wendy.batts@nasm.org, or you can find me on Instagram at wendy.batts13.
Yeah, my info is right here, dr.martymiller72 on Instagram, and then my email, marty.miller@nasm.org. we'd love to hear from you. We want to make these specific to your wants, needs, and desires. So please reach out. And as always, follow, like, subscribe, and give us a great review. That would be awesome. We appreciate it. And until next time, we look forward to seeing you on the Master Instructor Roundtable.